An experienced drug dealer suddenly got stopped by some rookie cops. Just as the dealer faked reaching for his ID with his left hand, his right hand wasn't idle either. Within a second, he killed both of the police officers. But instead of taking off right away, he got out of the car and kept shooting at the two stunned cops, firing until his skills finally gave out. And that was just the beginning. To go all out against the police, the dealers openly handed out guns for free on the streets during broad daylight. Everything from pistols to assault rifles. They loudly shouted slogans like, "Fight for the boss," and their boss was none other than the only drug lord Mick Walker, who offered huge bounties. $2,000 for killing a regular cop, $10,000 for a sheriff, and $50,000 for a narcotics officer. Faced with such tempting rewards, many young people from the slums turned into cold-blooded killers. Even the attorney general ended up dead inside his own car. In just 1 month, over 200 cops had been killed under Mick Walker's bounty scheme. The police had to set up a special morgue because of the bounty order. Mick Walker never expected that his crazy killing spree wouldn't scare the government off. Instead, it brought out an even tougher opponent. Colombia's new president, Cesar Gaviria, took office and immediately agreed to sign an extradition treaty with the U.S. He promised the public he was determined to extradite Mick Walker to the States to stand trial and would stop at nothing to completely wipe out Mick Walker and his Medellin cartel. This really pissed Mick Walker off. He decided to pull off one big, shocking move that would shake the whole world. His insane plan was to blow up the passenger plane Cesar Gaviria was going to be on, even if it meant killing hundreds of innocent civilians. To make this happen, Mick Walker recruited two key people. The first was Ethan Collins from Spain, a bomb maniac. He was an expert at making all kinds of bombs, especially small ones disguised as everyday items. He was famous all over Europe as a bomb expert. Back then, the Spanish Prime Minister and Defense Minister had both been killed by bombs he made. Of course, his price was crazy high too. One hit would cost a cool $1 million. But he was the best. And Mick Walker only wanted the best. Money was just a number to him. He commissioned the maker to create a recording device bomb that could easily be taken onto a plane. As soon as you press the record button, the bomb would explode within seconds. Now that they had the bomb, the question was, who would bring it onto the plane? Mick Walker set his sights on the young guys from his old neighborhood, the Medellin slums. He patiently taught them how to handle guns like a teacher, and looked over their shoulders kindly, like a caring father. To those young men, Mick Walker wasn't a drug lord, he was like a god. Among them, Mick Walker noticed a poor kid named Liam Parker. He invited Liam to his house to have dinner with his mother and brothers, making Liam feel important like he'd never felt before. Mick Walker even visited Liam Parker's wife and newborn daughter at their home, and gave him some designer clothes to wear during the mission. And this mission, according to Mick Walker, was super simple. Just get on flight 203 tomorrow morning with the recording device, and after takeoff, press the button to record the conversation of the president on the plane. Just one conversation could earn a $500,000 bounty. Liam never imagined that he would never be able to spend this money. To be absolutely safe, Mick Walker had his men escort Liam Parker all the way to the airport and watch him through security. By chance, Liam Parker passed right by President Gaviria, who was about to board the same flight. But Gaviria was stopped at the last minute by DEA agent Jack Morgan, who had received a tip from the CIA that Mick Walker might target the flight. Strongly advised not to board, Gaviria canceled his trip. November 27, 1989, would go down as the darkest day in Colombia's aviation history. There were 101 passengers and 6 crew members on board, including 3 American citizens. Completely unaware of what was about to happen, Liam Parker followed Mick Walker's instructions. When the plane reached its cruising altitude of 13,000 feet, he opened the recorder and pressed the record button. Within seconds, the bomb exploded. The blast ripped the aircraft into 2 pieces. All 107 passengers and crew members were killed instantly. The crash site was so devastating that not a single intact body could be found. The horrific bombing shocked the entire world. Countries everywhere condemned it as a brutal act of terrorism. The United States was furious and immediately declared Mick Walker its #1 international target. Meanwhile, Mick Walker sat calmly in front of his television, watching the news coverage of the explosion. There wasn't a trace of regret on his face. His only disappointment was that President Gaviria had survived. After escaping death, Gaviria's first move was to sign an executive order launching the biggest manhunt in Colombian history. The military and police were ordered to completely destroy Mick Walker's Medellin cartel. The United States poured in weapons, intelligence, and financial support, while DEA agents joined the operation directly. Almost overnight, Mick Walker became the most wanted man in the world. His estates were bombed, his drug labs were destroyed one after another, and his top lieutenants were either captured or killed. Even his most trusted cousin and second-in-command, Brett Walker, was killed after an intense police operation. But even then, Mick Walker refused to surrender. He knew that as long as he still possessed one weapon capable of terrifying the government, he still had a chance to win. That weapon was indiscriminate terrorism. He ordered bomb expert Ethan Collins to carry out a wave of car bomb attacks across Colombia. Police stations, government buildings, television stations, and even residential neighborhoods all became targets. Within just a few months, hundreds of bombings rocked the country. Thousands of innocent civilians were killed or injured. Colombia was consumed by fear. Every day, people left home wondering if they'd ever return. Every night, families went to sleep afraid a bomb might explode beneath their apartment. But even that wasn't Mick Walker's deadliest move. He knew politicians didn't truly care about ordinary civilians. They cared about themselves and their families. So Mick Walker organized a massive kidnapping campaign. His assassins abducted dozens of Colombia's most powerful people, including the former president's daughter, famous journalist Diana, and the wives and children of senior government officials and members of Congress. Using the hostages as leverage, Mick Walker gave the Gaviria government a choice: abolish the extradition treaty and negotiate with him, or start collecting the bodies of the hostages. Country's elite immediately panicked. Every day they lived in fear that their loved ones would be kidnapped or murdered by Mick Walker. They began pressuring President Gaviria to end the military campaign, negotiate with Mick Walker, repeal the extradition treaty, and finally bring the endless wave of terror to an end. Caught between relentless pressure from the United States, demanding Mick Walker's extradition, and growing pressure from Colombia's own political elite and exhausted citizens, the Gaviria government found itself trapped. The war had already lasted for years. Mick Walker's Medellin cartel had killed more than 1,000 police officers, over 200 judges, dozens of politicians, and thousands of innocent civilians. The entire economy and social order of Colombia were on the brink of collapse. If the fighting continued, even more people would die, and the whole country could be dragged down by Mick Walker. Eventually, the Gaviria government compromised. They sent negotiators to hold secret talks with Mick Walker. Mick Walker's demands were blunt, bold, and outrageous. First, the Colombian government had to completely scrap the extradition treaty, and could never send him or any members of the Medellin cartel to the U.S. for trial. Second, he could only be charged with one drug trafficking count, and the sentence couldn't exceed 5 years. Third, he got to choose where he'd be imprisoned, pay for it himself, and have his private armed guards serve as jail guards. No government soldiers, police, or anti-drug agents were allowed within 3 kilometers. Despite how ridiculous these demands were, the Gaviria government agreed. The sword of Damocles hanging over Mick Walker's head was finally cut down with blood and bombs. Mick Walker picked a prison location on a hill just outside Medellin and named it the Cathedral. But this cathedral wasn't a prison at all. It was a 5-star luxury resort. He installed the most advanced communications equipment so that even while imprisoned, he could continue running his cocaine empire from inside and make millions of dollars without ever leaving. What Mick Walker didn't realize was that the prison he built to mock the government would eventually become the cage that trapped him, dragging him into a bottomless abyss. That's all for today, guys. Don't forget to like and follow. See you in the next video. Till then, bye-bye.